joining. Bear with me a second. So, welcome to the presentation on local government reorganisation and devolution. And this is to explain what is happening in Staffordshire. Just introduce the team at the SPCA. So I'm Robert Pritchard, I'm the County Executive Officer. We have Ian Cruz-Taylor, who is our Training Officer, and we have Chelsea Hurd, who's our Health and Wellbeing Project Officer, and that's the main team at the SPCA. For fear of teaching everybody to suck eggs, this is the current structure of local government in Staffordshire. So you have the Unitary Council of Stoke-on-Trent in sort of the yellowy green, and then the blue is Staffordshire's district councils and Staffordshire County Council. And that is what we call two tiers, well, you've got three tiers of local government if you include the parishes, but it's routinely referred to by government as two-tier. We have one county council, we have 8 district borough councils. Rounding up, there's 180 local councils, so town and parish councils. We have 6 parish meetings, 1 unitary council in Stoke-on-Trent, which is also unparished, and we have no strategic or combined authority covering the Staffordshire area. As a way of an introduction to what is happening in our area. In December 2024, the government set out plans at how they would like to move powers from central government to local government across England, and they call this devolution. And part of their plan involves reorganising the way local councils work. And they set out their proposals in what they call the English Devolution White Paper. How will they do this? They will do 2 things. Firstly, they will create strategic authorities. So these are large authorities covering at least 1.5 million people. They will have strategic powers sort of and funding around transport, housing strategy, health, economy, those sorts of things. Where they have a mayor, they'd have additional powers, and they would also absorb the police, fire and crime commissioner role. And working alongside that is the creation of unitary authorities. And that involves abolishing the district and borough councils, abolishing the county council, abolishing the Stoke Unitary Council, and replacing all of those councils with 1 or more unitary councils covering those areas. I'll cover lightly the strategic authority first, as that's sort of less impactful on us as a sector. So that will cover transport and local infrastructure, skills, employment support, housing, strategic planning, wider economic development and regeneration, environment, net zero, health, well-being, public service reform, public safety, in the commissioner function, and many of those are powers that rest with government at the moment. The strategic authority that would cover us, so Staffordshire, Stoke-on-Trent and potentially another county would come together to form the strategic authority. It's been suggested there be no islands sort of in Staffordshire, so in England, so everywhere will be put with somewhere, so it's potential we could have a neighbouring county like Shropshire join with Staffordshire. Staffordshire and Stoke-on-Trent's councils have asked for a Staffordshire Stoke only strategic authority, but that is just below the population threshold that government is seeking, and still to the best of my knowledge nobody has sort of sought to take on Shropshire, so there's a potential we would be in a strategic authority with that neighbouring county. And think of these bodies as having a metro mayor, so the Andy Burnham, Andy Street type mayors overlooking sort of big strategic issues. This is an issue that doesn't really have much disagreement amongst local government in Staffordshire. The principal councils are generally fine with this, but that ends where there is consensus. Reorganisation has a lot of disagreement amongst the different councils, and when it comes to the unitary council proposals for Staffordshire, there's been many competing proposals submitted. So what are unitary councils? Um, the government believes, and this is their words, not mine, the unitary councils lead to better outcomes for residents, they save money, and they improve accountability with fewer politicians. And that was their principle for their proposals laid out in their white paper. Um, what are the government's expectations around unitarisation? So they expect the new councils to be the right size to achieve efficiencies and improve capacity. They were aiming for populations of around 500,000 or more, but again, this has been a very fluid target. The government has entertained proposals much bigger than 500,000 and much lower than 500,000. And the government has said it will make its decisions on which unitary models it adopts for various areas in England on a case by case basis. So what is happening next? So I'll lay out the timeline of local government reorganisation. So it was announced in November 24, and they published the white paper at that time. And then in December, they requested councils to volunteer for early implementation of unitarisation. Staffordshire was not one of those areas. Um, by March last year, they expected all principal councils to submit their interim proposals, and many councils all submitted proposals throughout England, and all the councils in Staffordshire submitted theirs. The bill the government will use to wrap up many of these changes was published in September, and then by November, all councils are expected to submit detailed proposals, their final proposals to government, outlining their idea for a new unitary council. Um, Now, it was intended that consultation on these various options submitted to government would start in May. They've actually already started that, so they started that early. Around mid 26, so if I was a betting man, May, June, we can expect the minister to confirm the model Staffordshire will get. May this year will also be the last district elections in Staffordshire, or highly likely to be the last district elections. And once the government has chosen the model or models for Staffordshire, development of those new councils will begin. Then in May 27, we will have shadow elections. So that is the election for councillors to the new unitary councils, with that council going live on the 1st of April 28, and the existing district and county council and unitary council in Staffordshire dissolving on that same day. So there will be a switch from one council to the new ones on the 1st of April 28, if the government sticks to its timeline. So how will the new councils we will have, how will they be chosen? So the councils in Staffordshire have been building a case and gathering evidence to support their proposals. So again, multiple competing proposals submitted by the councils in Staffordshire. Many carried out public consultation last year, varying degrees of involvement in that consultation, and some did a lot more than others. And then all these proposals went to the government in November. Each council was doing its own consultation, and the government consultation is now live. So the government is now consulting on all these various options that were put in by the councils, and we've sent information out about that a couple of times in the last few weeks, and how people can input into that consultation. So if we look back at the map of what Staffordshire looks like today, I will go through the various options that the government is consulting on for Staffordshire. So in no particular order, there's the two councils, North and South. So this option was supported by Stoke-on-Trent City Council, Stafford Borough, Cannock Chase District and East Staffordshire Borough, and they proposed a north-south split. The north would take in Newcastle, Stoke and Moorlands, and that would have just short of 500,000 people. And then the rest of Staffordshire would be in a single council in the south, and that would have a population of around nearly 700,000 people. The next proposal is again a north-south split, but the proposal from Moorlands was to take in Stone and sort of Uttoxeter wider area into that new North Staffordshire Council. And their ideas for that was it makes the North Council more economically viable, while also removing sort of any should we say, weight of councillor bias towards one particular area, i.e. Stoke, because you'd have a more balanced makeup of councillors there. And again, you've got it balances out the numbers. So that's the proposal from Moorlands. We have the County Council's proposal, which is an east-west split. So you would have Stoke, Moorlands, East Staffs, Lichfield, and Tamworth in one council. And then you'd have Newcastle, Stafford, South Staff, and Cannock Chase in the other. We then have the proposal of 3 councils of 3. So this is from proposed by Lichfield District, Tamworth Borough, and South Staffordshire. And that would see in the north, Newcastle, Stoke-on-Trent, and Moorlands form one council. Stafford, South Staffordshire, Cannock Chase would come together to form one, and then you would have Tamworth, Lichfield, and East Staffs forming a third council, and those would have much lower populations than the previous splits. Then we have a proposal of 4 councils. This was submitted by Newcastle Underline Borough Council. So you would see Newcastle turned into one unitary council, Stoke-on-Trent and Moorlands placed in another council, and then you would have South Staffs, Cannock Chase and Stafford forming a council, and then Tamworth, Lichfield and East Staffs, and again lower populations, with Newcastle being its own proposal. But out of all of these proposals, there can be only one successful option. So for the Highlander fans in the room, there can be only one, and we are currently awaiting a decision. So we're in a period now, because the government is consulting. We don't know when they will be making their decision. We have not had a timetable on that, but it will certainly not be before the local elections in May. So I would expect us to have an idea of what we may get for the Staffordshire new setup of local government to come sort of May, June time. Now, what will that look like after? Well, we will currently have 3 tiers, so the county council, district borough, and the local councils. And the proposed structure would have strategic authority, unitary authority, and the local council still. So, I mean, call me cynical, but that still looks like 3 tiers of local government to me, but that is in the long run what we will have in Staffordshire. Now, I want to move on to the impact it will have on our sector. So while local councils remain unchanged, parish and town councils predate many cases the current structure of local government and will carry on after. It will have an impact on us, and I just want to talk through some of these so people are aware of what may be coming their way, or the impact in the long run. I split them into 3: opportunities and negatives, and the things you might want to think about. Opportunities, obviously, asset transfer is a possibility. So some districts are talking to their parishes about asset transfer, things like parks, play areas, community centres, the things that are no use to a big, large unitary council, and the best place to remain with a local council. We also have, there'll be an increased interest in parish and town councils, because with all the districts gone and the county gone, there'll be a lot of people who will still want to be on their local council or serve their community, and the way to do that now is going to be through local councils. So there may be a lot more people standing at election time at parish and town councils. And we can also enjoy a higher profile in our community. So many people will know that all the services are delivered by My Place Name Council. Wherever you live, it's My Place Name Council that does all the services. And with us now all being in large unitaries, many of the town and parish councils will enjoy a higher profile in their community by being the default local council. There are some negatives of this. So, there could be increased workload or inquiries. People who may be sending inquiries to the district council might start sending those to the parish and town councils. The phones might be busier, the emails might be busier. There's an awful lot of uncertainty. So we're in a period of consultation at the moment, and then a long period of waiting, and then a long period of the councils after it's chosen being built. So in terms of services and what it's going to look like and what it's going to be, we're in a period of uncertainty now, and there are more things we can't answer now than we actually can. There will be a loss of external relationships for many local councils. So we all know somebody in the planning department or the streets cleaning team or the highways team that we can go to with a query. Those people are highly likely not going to be there anymore. They might be in another department or looking after another part of the county. So many of those officers we were able to deal with in the pursuit of our duties may not be there anymore. And there will also be a disruption to services. You will have a number of councils all delivering services in their own way coming together, and that is inevitably going to lead to disruption. Things will change and things will not be the same and delivered the same way. Um, what can what can you do about these proposals now? So we are encouraging councils, if they don't have them, to consider getting a neighbourhood plan. A neighbourhood plan is an official planning document, and with us moving from defined districts into a large unitary, they could be a very useful planning resource to preserve some of the things you wish to see in your area as part of the official planning process. If you're a small council that's really struggling to be viable, there are some small councils out there that really struggle to recruit councillors. You could ask your district council to do a governance review before they go, and they could pair you with a neighbouring parish council or make you bigger or join you together. There are things they can do to try and help that. So that may be something you want to look at. Um, Review your budgets, particularly if you're seeking to take on assets. You can't change a precept half the way through the year. So if you want to take on a park or a play area or a community centre, make sure you've got the money in your budget to do that. Also, does the clerk have enough hours? Are they going to need an extra hour or two here or there because the phones might be busier or there might be a bit more coming the council's way? So have a look at that. And obviously training, that long term there can be increased responsibility on clerks and councillors as we may take on more assets or we may become more prominent in the future, and that's something we can support you with. There's also a big question around what the government's called neighbourhood governance. So they have announced as part of this there will be something called neighbourhood governance, and that they've described that as a body making decisions closer to residents. So people making decisions on council services understand local needs, and the government has stated that it's developing this approach and expects the new unitary councils to adopt that. The problem we have is the details are scanned. They're going to lay out how the details of how this will work and what they will look like after the bill has come into force. So we really don't know what this is going to look like, and this will have an impact on our sector. You know, we want to be part of these discussions. So it's really is something that we're very keen to find out more information and how we fit into that. In terms of our response to the consultation, so the SPCA will be responding to the government consultation, and we will urge the government to acknowledge the role that we play in local government. Local councils are the cornerstone of many communities, and we want that to be acknowledged as part of this reorganisation. We want to ensure that local councils are seen as key partners for the Unitary Council, and it's very important that we're treated as such. We need a role in the formation of the new unitary councils and the strategic authority. We know our communities better than a large unitary council will. So it's important that our views are taken on board. As mentioned, a provision in neighbourhood governance. We want to know how we're going to fit in and how we can have an impact on that. And obviously continued asset transfer where parish and town councils do want to take that on. And it's something we will continue to push for after local government reorganisation has gone through. Now, this isn't reorganisation is not something that's just happening for the first time. It's been happening in England for 30 plus years. and we can draw on an experience from Shropshire. So I'll hand over to Ian, who's our training officer, who has experience of this in Shropshire. Ian, do you want to come in?
Yeah, morning everyone. Sorry I was late joining you. Yeah, the Shropshire situation switched from three-tier back in 2009, as it says there, and it now effectively has two unitary authorities, Shropshire Council, which covers the ceremonial county, as it's often called, and then Telford and Wrekin, which of course is a largely urban area. Those two councils politically are very different, and frankly, for the most part, don't speak to each other. The effect in 2009, when the middle tier, if you like, was removed, was very much as Robert's described, looking forward in Staffordshire. But I guess the things that I'd add to that are that there will be a loss of some key personnel, because clearly there won't be the need for as many officers. There'll be an oversupply of councillors or people wishing to be councillors. But the effects, as I say, are as much about the nature of the relationships that you might currently have with your unitary or even the county. There'll be a loss of focus. Officers will not be looking outward. Many of them will be looking inward, and therefore they will be difficult to communicate with. And difficult for you to get responses, because they will be less sure about their roles in the new organisations, and any local knowledge that currently exists will be diminished by the changes. So that's all on the negative side, if you like. One of the things that we're experiencing now, interestingly, is a sort of continuation of what happened in 2009. Shropshire Council, many of you will know, is struggling financially for a variety of reasons. Many of the staff have disappeared. Staff with good local knowledge are no longer in employment. And the council's arrived at a position where it's seeking to divest itself of the discretionary services down to towns and parishes. And some of you may have seen press reports about the effect of new arrangements that are currently being worked through on Shrewsbury Town in particular, which is a very large authority in its own right, virtually a unitary in its own right. And they have this year effectively doubled their precept to take on a bunch of discretionary and shared services, shared statutory services with Shropshire Council. And so what they've done is been very proactive in seeking to meet the needs of their community. And that's the opportunity that this reorganisation presents. It enables you at town and parish level to develop local responses. You'll have been familiar with the fact that you get a service from the county or the district, but you won't have had much say in what that service looks like. Here is an ideal opportunity for you to put that right. Just going back to the negatives for a second, one of the things that we're experiencing in Shropshire is that there's a lack of clear information on some of the costs that can be involved. So while it's important to start to make provision, and many parish councils are raising their precept this year in expectation that they will take on services next year. But as things stand at the moment, they've been unable to get any clear information about the costs. So in your discussions with your district councils and the county, if that's appropriate, do press hard for clear information about the costs. And these assets, as we've always described them, are of course liabilities. And one of the other features of the arrangements has been the very slow legal processes. Trying to get land transferred or buildings transferred involves a lot of legal time. So it's not just the time of your own staff, but it'll be the need for you to budget for specialist support to enable you to carry all the due diligence activities that need to go on in situations like this. Interestingly, in 2009, when the district councils disappeared in Shropshire, there were a new set of organisations invented which I'll call local area committees. They had budgets and they could support activity in a local area. So while they didn't have local government structures, they were a middle tier of activity. And to an extent, the work that SPCA is trying to do is to cultivate area arrangements which won't have funding necessarily, but which enable parishes to talk amongst themselves and perhaps form alliances and allegiances and develop shared services. So it's really important that opportunity is taken to work closely with them. I think the other experience that towns and parishes had was the importance and the need to manage expectations amongst members of the public, because they too would feel this lack of focus. If they were making inquiries, they would find themselves unable to get responses. So I think there's a communications opportunity and need for towns and parishes. So as the arrangements develop, as we explore what the impact of those arrangements are, it's really important that you take opportunity to put your town or parish front and centre in the communications stake, so to speak, and that you take every opportunity to remind the local residents and the businesses as well what you're there to do, what you're able to do, and the opportunities that exist. And of course, to continue talking to them as a neighbourhood plan approach would be. And even if you don't go as far as the formal neighbourhood plan, a local plan is well worth developing. And here is a prime opportunity for those councils that haven't already done that to consider very carefully doing that, because that brings you into much closer contact with your community. I'm happy to try and answer any questions that might emerge from that. But Robert, I think that's probably enough from me at this stage.
Lovely, thank you, Ian. We will move into questions now. I'll just stop the recording. So this has been recorded for anybody who can't make it, and we will share the link once we put it on YouTube. So